Hi everyone. Some of my friends asked me to show my thickness jig, and I did it in my other video, but here I decided to make a mini version of the thickness jig along with a mini edge plane board. It's just because I wanted a handy one that I can quickly make a small piece in the middle of a project. So, before showing how I made it, let me demonstrate how I can use it. First, I used this mini edge plane board to make one clean edge. Please check my shooting board video for the advantage of using this to clean one edge. Then, I use a marking gauge to mark where to cut and cut it. Now, I use this mini thickness jig. I put the plywood to adjust the height and place the wood on it. Just be sure the grain orientation is correct and run the hand plane to finish. When I need to make micro adjustments, I usually put the paper to adjust it. Okay, so let's see how I made it. Yeah, this is the leftover plywood from my shooting board project, so two edges are already square, so I'm using it as is. And now I cut another piece. Oh, yeah, last time I used the crosscut cutter saw to cut the plywood, but this time I'm using Dozuki. I just replaced the Dozuki blade after 2 years of use, but I put the old blade back on it, as the plywood may damage the fine saw teeth. The thing is, Dozuki can cut plywood really well. I mean, you don't have to worry about the cutting edge to get fuzzy, and the cutting edge is so smooth. Please just angle the saw so the back spine doesn't interfere with the plywood. Now I'm preparing the wood to make the rails and sidewalls. It's just a leftover super uneven poplar, so I needed to remove about 3/16 of an inch from one face. Anyways, let me explain the thickness of the boards. The width of the sidewalls can be whatever you want, but for the rails, the ideal width of the board is just like the picture. I like to give a little room on the side of the hand plane, so the rail is actually wider. The edge of the rail will end up being shaved, but the height of the outer side rail stays the same, so you can use this jig for a long time. This is also poplar that was pretty straight to begin with that I used for the rails. After surfacing the boards, I needed to cut strips out of the boards, so first I cleaned the edge by my edge plane board. If you don't have one, don't worry, I'll tell you how you can easily get an accurate edge even without it. Then I cut off the strip from each board. I make another strip from both boards, so here I'll correct the edge again. If you don't have the edge plane board, please try putting a plywood or any flat board on another flat board to make a temp edge plane board, and then do the hand plane. In this way, the 90 degrees edge profile will be automatically achieved as long as the side of your hand plane is tuned into 90 degrees, so you can focus on the straightness of the edge. Okay, now I have to correct the other side of the edge. After roughly cleaning the edge, I wanted to use my bigger thickness jig to make an accurate height strip. However, I used edge plane board, because I'm sure you don't have the jig, so you are watching this, right? Anyways, 3/4 of an inch is too narrow, so when you shave this narrow strip with the edge plane board, please be careful, and that's why we are making a thickness jig for safe. Then I clean the end grain. The accuracy of the board length isn't critical, so you can just cut it by saw and leave it. I also made stopper blocks by scraps at this time. It's almost done with fabrication, so I'm chamfering the pieces. Just for your reference, where I chamfered is in the picture. Now, let's glue up. I always say I suck at it, and yes, I do. Since I didn't have time, I keep gluing pieces every 2 hours. The only critical glue ups here are the stop block for the edge plane board should be 90 degrees, and the space between the rails must be a set width. I cut out the spacers in between the rails and put wax on it so I can align the rails well. Now I put dowels to reinforce the stop blocks. You can simply use screws, but if so, for the thickness jig, please be sure the screw head is deep enough in the wood so the plane blade won't hit it. This is the next day and I roughly adjusted the height of the stop block. This will be anyway adjusted to the correct height once you start to use this jig, so roughly is enough. It's almost there, so I just have to be sure the height of the rails is accurate with a marking gauge. It seems like I did good glue up. I would run hand plane to adjust them if they were off. Then I put oil, and I know I haven't put the sidewalls yet. It's just because I didn't have enough time to wait for the glue, so I decided to use screws, and let's see the final board again. Yeah, this is the board, and one more time, let me go over the critical things. For the edge plane board, the board edge better be straight, but it's not that critical, and the stopper doesn't need to be thick either, as the edge won't tear out when planing. For the thickness jig, the rail height is of course critical that you need to make them accurate. I set them as 3/4 of an inch high because I managed to make this 3/4 of an inch rails with the edge plane board, so I don't need this jig to make any boards wider than 3/4 of an inch. And please be sure the spacing between the rails is set right, especially when making a little room like me. The edge will be shaved off a little bit, but when the plane is on the right or left side, the both edges of the plane should be on the high point of the rails. Maybe you think mine has a little too much room, and that's right, because I wanted to tilt the hand plane to do a skew cut. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would be happy if you liked the video and happier if you subscribe to this channel. If you have any suggestion to my video, it's also welcome. See you!